Hello and welcome to Rise and Shine with Alissa. I am your hostess, Alissa Bakar, the consultress, bringing you innovative conversations from the front lines of entrepreneurship. And really, in the age of disruption, what's new is going to be normal. Nothing's going backwards. So let us help you move forwards. I have the pleasure and the privilege of knowing some amazing people on this planet. And today I have the privilege and the pleasure of chatting with Mr. Bryan Maddex. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Doing amazing, thank you. I am just super grateful that we had the chance to meet in a real estate investor meetup. You were like the brains behind the operation, I feel. And so every week I was getting a dose of your brilliance in terms of tracking what data in the marketplace and things, but also getting a dose of your personal story and what makes you tick. So really grateful to have you here for this live conversation. So we usually start with, what are you passionate about and how does that show up in your life and work? So what's top of mind for you that you'd like to share with us first thing?
I'm a dad. That is my why and my who and my how and my what, right? Because I do everything because of and for my kids. And I try to be very present in their lives. I work hard, I play hard. We travel during the summers because I can. They know I can work, and that's why we can travel during the summers is because I can work. But I carve out family time, and I make it a priority to be at every school meeting, every school play, every sporting event. So work hard is one thing, but I work hard so that I can take the time and flexibility with the kids. So this industry has allowed me to really just always be there when the important stuff is happening. But really, that's my passion is being there for my kids and taking care of them and enjoying life with them. So
Yeah, our reason for being, knowing your why. Was it Simon Sinek that had the famous TED talk around knowing your why?
right,
You need to know what animates you before you figure out what fields you're going to go play in. And
right.
for me, being in the finance and business coaching and real estate spaces, knowing that I grew up with a mom who was the nuts and bolts, the backbone of the business. And she always taught me how to manage my checkbook and be very meticulous about keeping records. That pays forward to today for me. So, tell me a little bit about the work that you're up to, and kind of how your passion and personality lend to it.
Yeah, so I'm a weird guy. I love the numbers side of the business, right? So obviously I'm in real estate. I do mortgages for a living. But real estate is also a passion of mine. My wife and I have 5 short and midterm rentals. I got into real estate because I started my industry launch as a teller at a bank. And within the first year, I was good at sales. I was good at the products. I was good at relating to people. So within the first year, I went over to the platform side where I opened accounts and things like that. And I quickly noticed that all of my really wealthy clients that came in casual shorts and t-shirts, they were all involved in real estate. So you either ran some business making some kind of widget, or you had real estate. Those were the 2 people that had the most money, unless it was like old money, right? And there was plenty of that. But I learned that like real estate's got something that's different. And so I started reading books on real estate when I was 19. And my wife and I bought our first house when we were, I think I was 23 or 24, which is way younger than the average first-time home buyer. But that was the launch to our real estate and to kind of getting motivated and passionate. So I did retail banking for 17 years, figured out that I was babysitting kids at work and needed to get rid of some kids because I had kids at home. And I felt like I just had too many kids I was responsible for. So I decided to go out into the mortgage world. And real estate has just been kind of a backbone for my career. I've always liked the lending side of the banking industry. And then we had our first rental property, I think in 2002 is when we first had our first long-term rental. And so we've always had real estate kind of since then. And so it's fun. It's not ever the same thing. It keeps us always kind of on our toes. So I do a lot in the mortgage business, and then we've got some short and midterm rentals. My wife mostly manages those. And we try to, instead of buying a bunch of gifts for our kids, we try to, create experiences and find some place to go visit and travel. Right. So, Real estate through and through is the passion and the excitement and joy in life.
Looking like a true real estate nerd, man. I can't make this up.
It's addictive, right? When you get that first house, it's like, ooh, I want another one.
Uh, yeah.
I've kind of focused my career. Like I've always done networking in the business realms, talking about real estate. And then when I got out of the retail bank, I started doing networking just to real estate groups, meetups, small groups, big groups, places where I could speak and where I could get to know other investors. And it's, when you're working with a home buyer, you buy a home once every 4 to 7 years. But when you're working with a real estate investor, it's a passion, it's an addictive thing. And those real estate investors, they're going to buy, maybe 2 or 3 houses a year, not one every 4 to 7 years. And there's not normally other bankers in all these real estate groups. So yeah, I've always just found that that's the playground that I really enjoy. It doesn't get stale. It doesn't get old. Every deal is, it's putting a puzzle together, and it's trying to make things work and trying to figure out what's the angle for this property, for this client, or for their goals or their situations. So,
Oh,
yeah. So yeah.
it keeps you on your toes. That's what the one thing that I really do like feel simpatico with you about is no two deals or days are the same.
That's
You
right.
have to be able to ride the highs and the lows. I've had some of my most deep come to Jesus moments because of real estate. I was talking to a mentor, was like, oh, yep. I once had a panic attack and it was because of real estate. I've only ever had one in my life and real estate was the cause. And
Right.
when you're living life full out and you're, creating on the growth edge is something that I kind of am passionate about being, if you're constantly learning, you're always going to be presented with new problems to solve, new endeavors to take on, joint venture partners, new business models. Everything is fluid and flexible and always evolving.
Right.
So we kind of come out of your traditional schooling with this myth that there's an arrival point and there's a way to do it. And then at some point during my career, I figured out that was a bunch of hogwash, to quote my daughter, whose birthday it is very soon. So she she's a very big inspiration for me. But anyhow, when I realized that, the myth of consistent sameness was an industrial age thinking model, that
Yeah.
we're now on the cusp of, the next iteration of human development. Like nothing is going to stay the same. In fact, the assembly line thinking is dying hard right now. Do you
Right.
see that too?
Well, you look at like Tesla, and part of their success is not taking what's normal and saying that's what we should do, but instead breaking down, why are we doing it this way, and is this truly the best? But you can't really figure that out unless you break it. You take away parts of the process enough that you break the process and realize, I got to start this process over. And if they're not breaking things, they're not being aggressive enough with breaking down the traditional norms of how things are done. And I think that's, you look at our environment, our economy, you look at the things we've gone through, even in just the last 5 years. 2019, the economy was getting weird. We were kind of heading towards a recession or some kind of economic change that started in 2019. And then in 2020, it got accelerated with COVID. But we had to learn a whole new way to think, a whole new way to do business, literally, right? From our houses with masks on. And so that is the exciting thing about this industry, is it's forever evolving. And if you get into a mindset and you just trek on a trail and you just keep that straight line, you're going to hit a wall or a tree or a door or a brick, you're going to hit something and you're going to be stopped. And especially in this industry, you have to be able to make some shifts and say, hey, the industry is now going over here. So if I don't change directions, I'm going to get lost and I'm not going to have an option to move forward. So it's always evolving and changing. And that's fun, right? It's exciting. And it's always a new way to, how do I make this widget, or how do I do this process, and how do I tweak it? So I think that's the really nice thing about what we're doing now, instead of that old working this job for 20 years, get your watch, get your retirement. And, I think that's very old school, and seems to me kind of boring, right?
I mean, I used to call it my attitude problem. I would be in a position and, early part of my career, I was in finance and I would get to a certain level and I would either get bored or frustrated that the innovation or the changes I wanted to make were not well received by
Right.
that, old way of thinking of like, sit down, shut up, and just do the bare minimum because that's what we're getting paid to do. I grew
Right.
up in a family business. Like, I'm not getting paid to do the bare minimum. All eyes were on me, making sure that I was doing the absolute best because I was setting the bar. You growing up in a family
Right.
business, you can either be the eternal slacker or the one who busts their ass the most because everybody's wondering, well, if she can do it, then I can do it. So you can take it both ways. But anyway, the attitude problem came when I realized in those, small, medium, and corporate settings that like there was a limit to innovation because people get comfortable and people get complacent and they like the middle, the mediocrity, but it doesn't look like mediocrity when it's habitual, right? And that's kind of what disrupting thinking is all about. It's like, let's break up what is super comfortable because if you're not growing, you're dying.
That's it.
Break up what's comfortable and see what comes. You have to be
Right.
willing to get uncomfortable and get messy a bit, no?
And this isn't a job where I just need to do my 8 hours and then I get to go home and check out, right? It's a passion. And if you're in a passion, the work doesn't feel like work. It feels like fun. And it feels like, I get joy in helping others meet their financial goals and meet their objectives. And I'm a part of their path. And I might be able to help shift them and say, hey, you're heading towards a brick wall. Nobody's doing it this way anymore. You got to shift. You got to look, you got to like observe what's going on now. And it is fun and exciting. And reflecting back to the bank world, you could see those people that were like, I got 3 years. I just need to keep my head down, do my 8 hours today, go home and repeat and rinse for 3 more years, and then I'm done. And man, I just don't see it's against my nature, right? Like just to
Yeah.
be idle and passive in that respect. And I think
It feels like you're slowly dying.
yes, yeah, like wow, just you get to wake up tomorrow and do the same exact thing over again, and that's 3 more years of that. Wow, it doesn't get exciting, and it doesn't get the juices flowing. I think when I look back at my career, um, I worked in banking for 17 years, but I never worked any place more than 5 years, right? At about that 4 year mark, 4.5 year mark, I started to get that boredom. I was a branch manager after about 4 years, and I had to keep taking on a new task, a new challenge. Like I can get this branch to be number one in the region, but then what? I need something new. So you switch companies or you switch branches, like that. I need that change. I need that new excitement. I need that new puzzle to put together. And then once you do it, like, okay, I win. Now this game is boring, right? So I need to
Right.
go find a new game to play.
That's when you start spam clicking, right? That's my son's like, I'm going to do a new video game where I haven't beat it yet, and then I'm gonna figure it out. But once you do that, then okay, now what's next? It's like
Right,
I've completed something. That's great. You have an accomplishment, and
right.
then what's next? So I think part of the puzzle here is kind of owning the fact that it's going to happen. You're going to arrive at a goal that you set once before and get a little bit of malaise around being stagnant. Like this is the human evolution. This is our growth curve at work. Feeling that boredom is not something we need to shut off or tell ourselves that it's bad to be. Like that is actually the warning flag or the green light that's telling us you've hit a plateau.
Right.
What do you want to do from here next? It's like standing, the economic principle, standing on the shoulders of giants. Once
Yeah.
you get to those shoulders, you see a whole new landscape and you get to choose your next adventure.
Yeah.
I hear your adventure is coming from the banking industry, getting into mortgages, and then tell me a little bit about Bello Mortgage because that was your most recent iteration, yeah?
Yeah, so I did 10 years in retail mortgage companies or IMBs, independent mortgage banks, right? So the banking sector is only doing like 35% of the mortgages in the industry now. They don't want to do mortgages. They don't like investors. They like money and they like making money with risk free, and mortgages have risk. So the banking sector kind of has pulled back. The independent mortgage space has kind of really grown. And I did 10 years in the mortgage world, if you will. And I realized that the independent mortgage bank, it's this big, huge house of cards that with interest rates as high as they are, they're having a really hard time turning a profit. And so as profitability, as the amount of mortgages in the last 2 years have plummeted. I mean, in the mortgage industry, we're in a depression, a deep depression, a 2-year depression. And we came out of the best environment we've ever seen, 2020, 2021, was the heyday in the mortgage world. And then 22, the world shifted and 60% of the industry is no longer in the industry, right? So if you're still in mortgage, you're a minority. So I kind of took some surveying of what I was doing and how I was doing it. And I realized that this space I feel like is a little bit broken. And I'm not able to compete competitively. I'm not able to really provide for my clients. I can't really go out and help them the way I know I could. So I decided to become a broker. And so I went from the retail space to the wholesale space. And doing that, I didn't want to brand, I used to always do videos with the company logo behind me, and kind of pitching the big name and the big brand and the companies that I was with. And now I don't have that. And I don't know that I will do that again. But as I switched to the broker side, I thought I need to start branding me, right? Because people call me back. They locate me, they keep my cell number, my email address might change, but they're coming to work with Bryan. They're not coming to work with whatever bank I came from or whatever mortgage company I came from. So then I decided if I'm making this move, I got to make a move in how I promote myself and how I image myself. And so I decided we need to have our own company. So my wife and I are brainstorming, and we came up with, I don't know, 50 or 100 different company names. And we were trying to think of things that were a little unique. Trying to find shorter domains, that's really difficult, right? Because everybody's already thought of all the really good domain names. And so you've got to be able to have a website and a presence online, and trying to find something that just kind of stood out and spoke to us. And we're going through, and then we started to talk about one of our kids' movies. And my wife said, what if we picked kind of like something out of a movie that had a meaning or an image that's, again, it's unique, it's different. So like one of the things we came up with was Vector. One of my kids really likes the Minions, and Vector is one of the bad guys in the Minions movie. And so we're looking at logos and looking at websites and domain names, and we're like, well, what else could we do if it's not Vector? So we just started kind of going through some of our kids' favorite movies, because there's little nuggets of gold in there. And we came up with Bello. And Bello is actually from the Minions movies. They don't say hello, they go Bello, right? And so that just kind of stuck. So looked into the word, it was available as a mortgage domain name. So I registered like 15 different versions of Bello this, financial and capital and all these different things. But the name comes from my kid's passion about the Minions. And Bello actually means beautiful in Italian. So
Sì, è vero.
when I start to market and when I start to get the website, because right now I'm just using kind of very cookie cutter corporate given website. But once I start getting into it and start playing with that marketing, I might use a little bit of that Italian beautiful. I don't know how I can make that relate to the mortgage industry. But it is a fun story. And so when people ask, Bello Mortgage is from the Minions, for sure.
I love that. You just like hit both of the benchmarks for me. My kids and I, spent a lot of time imitating the Minions. My son was a Minion for Halloween or for some event one year.
Yep.
Yellow face. My daughter did all the face paint on him and stuff. And these are the things that make us like truly come alive. So you have Bello, which my family's from Italy. My dad was an immigrant, literally
Okay.
took the boat named Christopher Columbus.
Okay.
And so knowing that Bello, it actually, I think, is a really great energy signature for you. Because what I know of you is like you live with your heart wide open. Your moral compass is right here in the center, and you're always looking to, be better, do better, and serve. So that to me is molto bello. I really love that about you. It's kind of like I don't hang out here with people that, feel something other than aligned, and I think
Yeah.
it's a great representation of you, for what it's worth, from an
Thank
Italian
you.
first generation American.
Yeah, so now I need to brainstorm with you of like, how do I put that into a web presence, and how do I tell that story in a website that's mortgage related, right? So it'll be a fun project for us to work on.
Oh, game on, bro. Like you're speaking my language right now. Creative stuff. And that, to stay in the creative zone, is to create what is next, is to create what becomes new and gets normalized.
Yeah.
Because I remember the heyday of like having life as it was, and we had all those gems, and then we had this huge disruption, and now we're not going back to the same old, same old. We all get to hop into that place of alignment and authenticity and bring ourselves forward. So I am so glad you came here to come hang out with us and play in
Thank
this
you.
space. And I will have you back, mark my words. This is becoming like a routine now. I'm like, I want to hang out with these people more often. So please do come back and hang out with us. So where can people go to find you in the meantime and connect, because they've fallen in love with the bello human being that you are?
Yes, bellomortgage.com is the domain name, or bello.mortgage. I was started off with that, trying to make it look a little unique, but everybody took bello.mortgage and added a .com at the end, and they couldn't find me. So I had registered bellomortgage.com also. So I just kind of reverted back to what the industry norms are, or the people norms, right? We're all trained to do a .com. But that's the website. It will evolve. It will grow. I love what you said about, if we're not growing, we're dying. I've said that so many times. I love getting that challenge. I love standing up in front of people and educating and teaching them about mortgages and how that could help them financially, and how that can help them grow. And I love getting challenged, right? Like I hope that I am a good steward of my industry, and that I really dive in and really grow and learn. But when I get asked something that I am unfamiliar with, it's an opportunity for more growth. And I really love when I get that kind of challenge, and I get excited about, like, ooh, I get an opportunity to go find something new. Kind of becoming a broker is a whole bunch of new shiny objects. All these new products and things that I've been around for 27 years in the world of finance, but never done myself. So if you've got a unique or a new something that you want to explore, I love exploring and diving in, and really understanding, if I have 10 lenders that do this thing, which one is the best for my client? And you can't tell that until you go deep into all 10 of those options. And you can see, for you, Alissa, we're going to go this route because of this, right? And so it's just, I do love picking things apart and getting to the nitty gritty. So if you want to help challenge me, I love that challenge, and I love getting to know something new. But bellomortgage.com is the place you can find me the easiest. I'm on Facebook, Bryan Maddex. I think it's just facebook.com/Bryan Maddex. Bryan with a Y, Maddex with an EX. So get the name right, or Google me. I try not to be a hidden guy online, but I did definitely love real estate. I'm passionate about it, right? It's not a job, it's a passion. So let me be a part of your passion, and let me help spread my passion into your passion, right? Maybe we can, together we can do things bigger than we could do by ourselves.
That is the goal. And that is absolutely what's coming next. The age of divine partnership is upon us. This is what it gets to be. We're not like toxic masculine and toxic feminine. No, no, we heal each other, and
Yeah.
together we are better. So what's coming now in business, in relationships, in the world at large, is collaboration. That
Yeah.
is the core value of what is coming. So let's get our heads right and let go of this thing called competition, because the only reason there's competition is because there's an absence of differentiation, and we know that each human is unique. All of
Yep.
our stories are very different, and what calls one person to another is that act of seeing, oh, I see myself in you. So
Yeah.
collaboration is the thing. Competition is just a band-aid that needs to be ripped off, honestly, as we grow here. So thank you so much for coming, hanging out with us this morning. You can
My
find
pleasure.
us here on Rise and Shine every Monday morning. We broadcast at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time every Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Please give us a like, comment, and let us know what you liked or what you want to know next from this conversation, so we can come back and do this again and again and again.
Love it. Can't wait. Thanks for
All
having
right.
me on.
My pleasure, dude. See you later. And everybody, stay tuned and make sure you light up the comments for us. All right. See you later.